Thank you so very much, Jerome, for that wonderful introduction. I just want to say, though, that on a personal note, I would have preferred something much shorter, something like, please welcome the governor of the state of California, but you don't get everything you want in life. I'm honored to be here with the leadership of the Apollo Alliance, and pleased to see so many old friends here today. You know, as I've gone around the conference, a lot of people have come up to me and said, Phil, you look really good, which makes me wonder how the heck I looked last year during the campaign. None of us can miss the excitement in this room. It tells me that, working together, mobilizing together, we are ready to take back our country and Washington, D.C. in 2008. I want to talk to you today about a central thrust of the mission before us, creating a clean energy future and a sustainable economy, creating an economy that produces new jobs, new wealth, and new opportunities while protecting the environment. We face enormous challenges, compounded by 6 years of incompetence, neglects, and blindness in Washington. Global warming threatens to change life as we know it. Growing seasons and crop patterns, butterflies in a summer meadow and polar bears on the pack ice, the intensity of hurricanes blowing through Florida and the sea level in San Francisco and New York. Our addiction to oil threatens our national security and has bogged us down in a disastrous war in Iraq, which wounds our conscience and our young men and women. And the intransigence of the Bush administration threatens our economic competitiveness as others around the world rush to develop renewable energy technologies and retool their economies to make them greener and more efficient. The challenges confronting us cannot be ignored. They will force big changes in the global economy. Think about what the arrival of coal and steam did to industry and transport in the 19th century. Think about what the arrival of electricity and the internal combustion engine did to our lives in the 20th. Responding to the threat of global warming by building a clean energy economy will mean changes just as big. The changes will come at an accelerating pace, a pace that we can barely imagine today. And they will come whether Karl Rove believes in global warming or not. And of course, the very thought of such change paralyzes some people. To pick just one random example, consider George W. Bush. George Bush is not going to think about changing anything until his family's Kennett Bunkport estate on the Maine coast becomes America's first underwater presidential museum. You know, the one with the tarnished brass plaque that reads, George Bush slept here, and slept here, and slept here. But I'm here to tell you today that we don't have to be afraid of change, because we can fashion the sustainable economy of the future out of the best of what has made America great. By setting high expectations to meet the challenges ahead of us, and by marrying those high expectations to investments in technology and people so that we enlist the energy, the initiative, the ingenuity of the American people. That's something we Americans know how to do. In the 19th century, to connect a vast continent and to build a national economy of broadened opportunity, we Americans gave land to families to homestead, built land-grant colleges to educate generations of innovators and leaders, and invested in railroads to tie the country together. Through that vision and commitment, we turned the United States into an economic powerhouse. Again, in the mid-20th century, with the country struggling with the Great Depression, we Americans took action to provide a better life to the, quote, one-third of a nation ill-housed, ill-fed, ill-clothed, and insecure, as Franklin Roosevelt famously described it. We spurred investment in home building and home mortgages. We opened the door to college wider. We put a social safety net under families to reduce hunger, sickness, poverty, and the economic fears of old age. Through that vision and commitment, we built the wealthiest and most productive society in the history of the world. And before the end of the last century, before the Bush-Cheney cowboys rode into town, we acted to protect our health and environment, to affirm every person's right to breathe clean air and to drink clean water. We Americans set tough standards on pollution, and then we married those high standards to investments and incentives, grants for wastewater treatment, tax credits and cheaper loans for clean energy and pollution control. And through that vision, we got bluer skies, reborn rivers, healthier cities, and a higher quality of life. The lesson is unmistakable. When we do great things, when we set ambitious goals, and then we use the power of public investment to unleash the engine of economic progress, America prospers and succeeds. We have already seen in states and communities what can be done to seize these opportunities. As treasurer of my state, working hand in hand with the Apollo Alliance, we led the way to put the power of capital, money, to work to combat global warming and to create jobs and sustainable wealth for the future. With our Green Wave initiative, we put the weight of California's 2 pension funds, more than $400 billion strong, behind investments in environmental technology and renewable energy, seeding the green tech investment revolution that is now taking hold across the nation and the world. We committed over $1.5 billion to environmentally responsible investments to fight pollution and climate change while creating tens of thousands of new jobs and earn returns for our pensioners. We set a goal of reducing the energy usage in our pension funds' $30 billion plus real estate holdings by 20% over the next 5 years, creating good jobs and saving enough energy to power 50,000 homes. And we launched a new shareholder activism era to force corporations to confront the risk of global warming, protecting their bottom lines and the environment too. I'm proud that we acted to protect the planet and to build our economy and to make a good return doing it. But now we must turn the agenda pioneered by Apollo and the Green Wave into a national agenda, an agenda that's bold, an agenda that doesn't nibble at its edges, an agenda that takes risks. Today, as Al Gore has reminded us, the outer boundary of what is considered politically possible in fighting global climate change falls far short of what is minimally necessary to meet the challenges ahead of us. The boundaries can and must be stretched, but we need to lead the way. A national agenda that fuses high environmental expectations, reducing carbon emissions, increasing fuel efficiency, enhancing conservation and efficiency, with powerful investments in our people, our communities, and our industries, can drive America towards a goal of a clean energy future and a sustainable economy. But we need to lead the way. Our work starts here and now, and it starts with ending this tragic and debilitating war in Iraq so we can turn and face the real challenges confronting us here at home. And it starts with expanding the progressive Democratic majorities in Congress and electing a Democratic President of the United States of America. In the campaign season ahead, we must press each of the candidates to commit themselves to our agenda of high standards and sweeping action. And when we elect a new president with a clear mandate to act, we must marshal our forces, we must organize to pass by no later than the end of 2009 the most sweeping changes in our economy since the New Deal to speed our transition to a clean energy economy. So let us commit this nation to freezing and reducing our carbon emissions starting right now, You've seen a lot of politicians setting 50-year targets, politicians who won't be around for the day of reckoning. Let's enact hard targets for the next 5 and 10 years, not just long-term promises. Let's make our cars and trucks more fuel efficient. Let's set national renewable energy portfolio standards for our electric utilities so more of our power comes from the sun, the wind, and water. Let's increase building efficiency standards and standards for appliances and set targets for retrofitting older buildings. And let's put in place real smart growth plans for our urban regions so Americans spend less on fuel and spend less time stuck in congestion. And let us match these sweeping goals with investments big enough and bold enough to transform our future, investing in urban transit and high-speed rail, modernizing our electrical system so that less energy is lost in transmission and less carbon is emitted from power plants, and enacting new investment initiatives, tax credits, research and development grants, low-cost capital that encourages investors, innovators, builders, families to create a new clean energy economy. But if we're going to do all of this, if we're going to succeed, we have to invest in our people. Unfortunately, the United States isn't making the grade in preparing our people for the economy we need to build. Around the country, many specialized manufacturers report they're passing up orders because they can't find enough workers with the technical skills they need. Power companies face a shortage of line workers, just as we need to deploy clean sources of electrical energy. We cannot succeed on the high road to an environmentally sustainable economy if we don't also take the high road of investing in our people, giving them the skills to claim the high-wage jobs of the future and to be on the forefront of technological innovation. But even as the Bush administration alternately slumbers and resists the changes we need, you can see the sustainable future putting down its first strong roots across this country and the world. The biggest institutional investors from around the world are now committing billions to clean technology. Venture capital is pouring into investments in biofuels, hydrogen fuel cells, renewable energy, and advanced materials. Major companies are putting their own dollars to work on environmental technology and clean energy and are already seeing the payback on their order books. GE just announced last month that its sales of clean technology products had reached $12 billion in 2006, 20% more than the prior year. They've got a $50 billion backlog for items like compact fluorescent bulbs and wind turbines. We are on the cusp of a worldwide shift to a sustainable economy. All it needs is our push, our organizing, our passion, and our commitment. Now, I will not pretend that the agenda that I've laid out today will always be easy. But we should remember President Kennedy's words when he announced his decision to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and to do the other things, he said, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. We choose to go to the moon, he said, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. President Kennedy picked a challenge, and he backed that bold decision by investing $3.5 billion a year out of a $600 billion national economy. The equivalent today in our $13 trillion economy would be $70 billion a year committed to this agenda. If our parents' generation could spend so great a share of their wealth on a noble adventure, then surely we can invest an equal share of our much greater treasure to create the new energy, the new jobs, and the sustainable economy of our future. If our parents could mobilize the best of their skills and energies to explore the heavens, surely we can set big goals and reimagine our economy to save our planet. Today, as at every turning point in our nation's history, Americans are ready to take up the big challenge before them. We have the resources and the wealth to do the job. All we need now is the political will and leadership to get to the launching pad. with your hard work and commitment and the leadership of the Apollo Alliance, I know that we will finally find the way. In 2008, we're going to take back our country and forge a new future. Thank you very, very much. Thank you for all your great work.